Marcus Williams gripped the edge of his chair, his knuckles pale against the dark wood. The email had arrived at 6:47 that morning, 3 sentences that turned his world upside down. Marcus, report to the executive boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp. Come alone. This is urgent. Now he sat in the vast conference room on the 42nd floor, surrounded by glass and steel and people whose annual bonuses probably exceeded his yearly salary. The city sprawled below them, indifferent to the small human dramas playing out in its towers. Marcus had been in this building for 3 years, but never in this room. Nothing good happened in the executive boardroom when you were called in alone. CEO Elena Rodriguez sat at the head of the table, a vision of controlled power in her crimson suit. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing the sharp angles of her face. She looked like someone who'd never hesitated over a difficult decision in her life. 3 other executives flanked her faces Marcus recognized from company-wide emails, but had never spoken to. They looked everywhere except at him. The silence stretched. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket probably, Kaisha's school confirming pickup time. He promised his daughter pancakes for dinner tonight, her favorite. The generic brand from the dollar store, but she never complained. She never complained about anything, his brave little girl. How was he going to tell her if, "You're fired"? The words landed like a physical blow. Elena's voice was level, professional, completely devoid of emotion. She could have been reading the morning stock report. Marcus's mind went blank, then exploded with panic. The rent, the electricity bill sitting on his counter, marked "Final Notice" in angry red letters. Kaisha's asthma medication that insurance only partially covered. The promise he'd made to her grandmother on her deathbed, "I'll take care of her. I swear I'll take care of her. Marcus started, his voice catching. He cleared his throat, forced himself to sit straighter. "I don't understand, Ms. Rodriguez. Can you tell me what I did wrong?" One of the executives, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit, shifted uncomfortably. Elena raised a single finger without looking at him, and he froze. "Wrong?" Elena tilted her head slightly, studying Marcus like he was a specimen under glass. "Who said you did anything wrong?" The confusion must have shown on Marcus's face. His hands trembled, and he pressed them flat against his thighs where no one could see. He thought about the Richardson account, 6 months of work, dozens of rejected proposals, finally closing the deal that everyone said was impossible. He thought about the training sessions he'd volunteered to lead, the weekend he'd come in to help fix the database crisis. Then why? Marcus's voice cracked. He took a breath, steadied himself. He could not fall apart. Not here. Kaisha needed him to be strong. With all due respect, I've given everything to this company. My performance reviews have been excellent. I've exceeded every target. Have you? Elena's emerald eyes held his. Unblinking, Marcus felt something shift inside him, a spark of defiance cutting through the fear. 3 years of being invisible, of working twice as hard for half the recognition, of biting his tongue and playing it safe. Maybe it was time to speak his truth, even if it cost him everything. "Yes, I have." His voice was steady now, stronger. "The Richardson account that everyone said was impossible?" "I closed it." "The team productivity metrics?" "Up 40% since I took over." "The client retention rate in my division?" "The highest in the company." He leaned forward, his eyes never leaving Elena's face. "But you already know all that, don't you? So this isn't about my performance?" "This is about something else." Elena's expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in her eyes' interest, perhaps. "Or respect." "Then what do you think this is about, Marcus?" Marcus thought about walking away, about accepting defeat and slinking out with whatever severance they'd offer. But then he thought about Kaisha's face that morning, how she'd straightened his tie with her small hands and told him, "You look like a superhero, Daddy." "I think you're testing me," Marcus said quietly. "I think you want to see what I'm made of when everything's on the line." The silver-haired executive cleared his throat. "Miss Rodriguez, perhaps we should—" "Be quiet, Thomas." Elena's voice was sharp, but she never took her eyes off Marcus. "Continue." Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. He was either about to save his career or destroy it completely. But Keisha deserved a father who stood up for himself, who showed her that dignity mattered more than fear. "I'm a single father to a 7-year-old girl," Marcus began, his voice thick with emotion he didn't try to hide. "Her mother died when she was 3, cancer. I held my wife's hand while she made me promise to give Keisha a good life, to show her that hard work and integrity matter, that being a good person counts for something." He paused, swallowing hard against the lump in his throat. "Every morning I wake up at 5:30. I make Keisha breakfast, nothing fancy, usually cereal or toast, and I braid her hair because I spent 2 years learning how to do it right. I walk her to school, and then I come here and I give this company everything I have. Not because I'm desperate, though God knows I am, but because I need my daughter to see that you don't quit when things get hard. You show up. You do the work. You be the person you want her to become." The room was completely silent now. Even Thomas had stopped fidgeting. "So, if you want to fire me, Ms. Rodriguez, that's your right," Marcus continued, his voice breaking slightly but his gaze unwavering. "You're the CEO. You hold all the power here. But you should know what you're really doing. You're not just firing an employee with good numbers. You're telling a little girl that her father's best wasn't good enough, that integrity and hard work don't matter as much as whatever this is." Marcus stood up slowly, his legs unsteady but his resolve firm. "I won't beg. I won't compromise my dignity. Because Keisha is watching, even when she's not in this room. She's always watching. And I need her to see a man who stands up for himself, who knows his worth, even if nobody else does." Elena Rodriguez stood abruptly, and Marcus braced himself for the final blow. The security escort, the box for his desk belongings, the walk of shame past colleagues who would whisper about his downfall. Instead, she walked around the table with measured steps, her heels clicking against the marble floor. When she reached Marcus, she extended her hand. "Sit down, Marcus," she said, her voice softer than before. "Please." Confused, Marcus lowered himself back into the chair. Elena perched on the edge of the table beside him, a surprising break in corporate protocol. This close, he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands that she quickly controlled. "I'm not firing you," Elena said quietly. "I never was." The words didn't register at first. Marcus stared at her, waiting for the punchline, the catch, the other shoe to drop. I don't understand." Elena glanced at the other executives. "Leave us. All of you." Thomas opened his mouth to protest, but Elena's look silenced him. One by one, they filed out, closing the heavy door behind them with a soft click. Now it was just Marcus and Elena in the vast boardroom, the city sprawling endlessly below them. "My father built this company," Elena began, her eyes distant with memory. "He came to this country with nothing but a suitcase and a dream that probably sounds naive now. He worked 3 jobs, dishwasher, janitor, taxi driver, so that I could have opportunities he never had." She turned to face Marcus fully, and for the first time, he saw past the CEO to the person underneath. "He used to tell me that anyone can lead when things are easy. Real leadership shows itself when everything's on the line, when you have every reason to quit but you find a reason to stand anyway." Elena's voice caught slightly. "He died 2 years ago. Heart attack at his desk. He was reviewing performance reports, trying to figure out how to keep the company afloat during the recession without laying anyone off." Marcus's anger began to ebb, replaced by something more complex understanding, perhaps, or the beginning of it. "Before he died, he made me promise something," Elena continued. "He made me promise that I would never forget what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. That I would look for people who understood real stakes, real sacrifice, not just ambition or talent, but character." She smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her entire face. "The Richardson account was impressive, Marcus. The metrics, the leadership, all of it exceptional. But I needed to see who you were when you thought you had nothing left to lose. I needed to know if you were someone who would crumble or someone who would stand." Marcus felt a surge of emotions: relief, anger, disbelief. This was all a test?" You put me through hell because you wanted to see if I'd break? Yes, Elena didn't apologize, didn't look away. And I know that's not fair. I know you're probably furious with me right now, and you have every right to be. But Marcus, in my position, I can't afford to promote someone to leadership based on numbers alone. I need to know what they're made of. Promote? The word barely made it past Marcus's lips. Elena stood, walking to the windows that overlooked the city. Regional director? It's a new position we're creating. You'd oversee 5 states, manage a team of 30, and have full discretion over hiring and strategic decisions. The salary is double what you're making now, plus stock options, full benefits, and a signing bonus of $50,000. Marcus couldn't breathe. The number echoed in his head, $50,000. That was more than he'd made in his entire first year with the company. That was Keisha's college fund? That was security. That was breathing room. Why? He whispered. Elena turned back to him, her expression serious. Because you're exactly the kind of leader this company needs. Someone who understands that the people who work here aren't just resources on a spreadsheet. They're parents and children and caregivers and human beings with real lives and real struggles. You'll help me remember that. You'll help make sure we never lose sight of what really matters. Marcus stood on shaky legs, his mind reeling. Part of him wanted to accept immediately, to grab this lifeline with both hands before it disappeared like a mirage. But another part, the part that had learned the hard way that nothing came without strings held back. There's something I need to say first, Marcus said carefully. Before I accept, you need to know something about me. Elena nodded, waiting. Every day at 2:45 I leave to pick up Keisha from school, Marcus said firmly. I'm there when she walks out those doors. I help her with homework. I make her dinner. I tuck her in at night and I read her stories until she falls asleep. That's non-negotiable. He watched Elena's face for signs of disappointment or disapproval. As regional director, I know the expectations would be higher. I know there will be demands on my time. And I promise you the work will get done. I'll make sure of it. But not at the expense of my daughter. She's already lost her mother. She's not going to lose her father to a job, no matter how good it is. Marcus's voice grew stronger, more certain. So if that's a problem, if you need someone who can work 80-hour weeks and be available at midnight for conference calls, then I'm not your person. I'll go back to my old position and keep doing what I've been doing. But I won't sacrifice Keisha. I can't. The silence that followed felt eternal. Marcus watched Elena's face, trying to read her reaction. This could end everything. He could be throwing away the opportunity of a lifetime because he dared to set boundaries. Then Elena did something unexpected. She laughed. Not a polite corporate chuckle, but a real, genuine laugh that echoed through the boardroom. Marcus, that's not a condition, she said, her eyes bright. That's exactly why you're the right person for this job. She walked back to him, her expression earnest. Do you know what the biggest problem with corporate leadership is? We've created this culture where being a good employee means sacrificing everything else. Your family, your health, your sanity, all of it gets fed into the machine. And for what? So we can brag about our dedication at the expense of actually living our lives? Elena shook her head. My father missed my dance recitals. He missed my graduation because he was closing a deal. He missed so much because he thought that's what success required. And on his deathbed, do you know what he told me? He said, Elena, I built an empire, but I lost precious time with you. Don't make my mistake. Her voice trembled slightly with emotion. I want to build a different kind of company, Marcus. One where people can be excellent at their jobs and still be present for their families. Where picking up your daughter from school isn't seen as a weakness, but as exactly what it is being a good father. And I need leaders who will model that, who will show others that it's possible to be both dedicated and human. Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes, but this time he didn't fight them. I built a leadership development program last year, Elena continued. It's designed specifically for working parents, single parents, caregivers, people who are juggling real responsibilities outside these walls. But it's struggling because the participants feel isolated. They feel like they're the only ones fighting to balance it all. She extended her hand again, this time for a handshake. I want you to co-lead that program with me, Marcus. I want you to be the face of what real leadership looks like, someone who gets results without sacrificing what matters most. Your condition isn't a problem. It's the whole point. Marcus took her hand, his grip firm despite the trembling. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Elena replied simply. Say you'll take the risk. Say you'll help me build something better than what we have now. Yes, Marcus whispered. Then louder, yes, I'll do it. Asterisk, the afternoon sun was warm on Marcus's face as he waited outside Kaisha's school, leaning against the chain-link fence with the other parents. He'd made it with 10 minutes to spare, his heart still racing from the morning's emotional whiplash. In his pocket, his phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from colleagues who'd already heard the news, but all of that faded away when the school doors burst open and Kaisha came running out, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her braids flying behind her. She scanned the crowd of parents with that slight anxiety she always had, the fear. Marcus knew that one day he wouldn't be there. Then she saw him, and her entire face lit up like sunrise. Daddy! She crashed into his arms with the full force of her small body, and Marcus lifted her up, holding her tight against his chest. She smelled like crayons and cafeteria pizza and something indefinably sweet that was just Kaisha. Hey, baby girl, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. How was school? Kaisha pulled back to look at him, her brown eyes so much like her mother searching his face with that uncanny perception children sometimes have. Something happened, she said. It wasn't a question. Something good. You look different, Daddy. You look ... happy. Marcus set her down but kept holding her hand as they walked toward the bus stop. How did he even begin to explain this day to a 7-year-old? The terror, the relief, the impossible test that had become an impossible opportunity? You remember how I told you I had an important meeting today? Marcus began. Kaisha nodded solemnly. With the boss lady. You were scared. I could tell, even though you tried to hide it. Smart girl. Too smart sometimes? Well, the meeting was hard, Marcus admitted. Really hard. But something amazing happened. I got a promotion, Kaisha. A big one. What's a promotion? It means I get a better job. More responsibility, and ... Marcus paused, the reality still sinking in. It means we don't have to worry so much about money anymore. It means I can get you new clothes when you need them, not just from the thrift store. It means we can fix the car. Maybe even move to a bigger apartment someday. Kaisha stopped walking, tugging on his hand. When Marcus looked down, she was frowning. Daddy, does it mean you won't be able to pick me up from school anymore? The question cut straight to his heart. This was what she worried about, not new clothes or a bigger apartment, but whether she'd lose the one constant in her uncertain world. Marcus knelt down on the sidewalk, not caring about his dress pants or the other parents flowing around them. He took both of Kaisha's hands in his. No, baby. That's the best part. I made a promise to the boss lady, to Ms. Elena. I told her that no matter what, I will always be here at 2:45 to pick you up. That's never going to change. You're the most important thing in my life, Kaisha, always. Kaisha's frown melted into a smile as she threw her arms around his neck. You're the best daddy in the whole world. You're the best daughter in the whole universe, Marcus replied. The old call-and-response they'd been doing since she was 3. As they rode the bus home, though Marcus made a mental note that soon, very soon, he'd be able to fix the car or maybe even buy a reliable one. Kaisha chattered about her day. Her science project on the solar system. How Tommy pushed her on the playground, but she told the teacher instead of pushing back. How her friend Maya invited her to a birthday party next month. Marcus listened to every word. Really listened, in a way he hadn't been able to for weeks because worry had been eating him alive. Now, for the first time in longer than he could remember, he could breathe. He could think about the future without fear choking him. That night, after dinner, real chicken, not hot dogs. Because Marcus had stopped at the grocery store with money he now knew would be replaced. Kaisha sat at their small kitchen table working on her homework while Marcus cleaned the dishes. "Daddy," Kaisha's voice was thoughtful. "Can I ask you something?" "Always, baby. Were you scared today?" "At the meeting?" Marcus dried his hands and came to sit beside her. Honesty, that's what he'd promised himself he'd always give her, even when it was hard. "Yeah, I was terrified. I thought I might lose my job, and I didn't know how I was going to take care of you. But you didn't quit?" "No, I didn't quit." Keisha nodded as if confirming something she'd already suspected. "Grandma used to say that brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Marcus felt tears welling up, his mother-in-law's words, spoken by his daughter who barely remembered her but carried her wisdom anyway. "Grandma was a smart lady," Marcus said softly. "Just like you." That night, as Marcus tucked Kaisha into bed, she held up the picture she'd drawn that morning, the one he'd been carrying in his wallet.